Looking to improve your life, brush up on your personal growth techniques? You are in the right place. Welcome to Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Life's Little Lessons. This is the show for you entrepreneurs out there that look for you to help you scale your business or even start your business. And today, the lady that I have on the show today hails from all the way from Vancouver Island, British Columbia. She is a lovely woman. She's been in business for over 21 years. She has a company called Molchan Financial, and she is a business and personal money relationship coach, and her name is Shari Molchan. Shari, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. Nice to be here.
Shari, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in a business like this? Or tell me, what is it that you do as a business and personal money relationship coach?
Yeah, it's a long story. I've been in the financial services as an advisor for 20 years. Accidentally. I mean, nobody wakes up and says, I want to be a life insurance salesperson. So I kind of fell into it. My first husband died of cancer and no life insurance. He was only 43. And so a year later, I was looking for a job and they said, oh, it's life insurance. I was like, oh, I know that. I just lived through it. So I was very, very successful in my career when I started, and then it kind of morphed into management for a while, because when you're really good at something, they want you to train. And then in 2005, I broke away and put up my own shingle, Molchan Financial, and as an entrepreneur. And so that was like the beginning of how I got into the business. And now with the coaching, there's so many. Money is the traditional money, the way it's taught doesn't work. So I saw that in my own life, and I saw that with my clients' life. So now I've added the component of the coaching people, businesses and couples and singles, of their relationship with money. And it's the inner game that we have to pay attention to more than the outer game.
So it's the way they think about money, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's the way that they think about money, the way that they've been brought up about money. We have so many limiting beliefs, and we don't realize that the way that we do money now is from the way that our parents did or what we saw them do. We either do the same thing or we do the opposite. But there's these unconscious habits that we do with money, or the feelings or the emotions around that we don't even know we're doing. And I saw so many clients sabotaging their plans, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I did work on myself, on my money personality and what were my beliefs, and it changed my life, my financial life. And now I kind of do that with my clients.
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, what is one of the biggest things that you see people have? What kind of issue do they have?
The biggest thing that I see, as far as, do you want me to talk around business or personal, or?
Well, since this is more for entrepreneurs, let's talk about business.
Sure. Okay, so if businesses come to me with money challenges, it's usually because they're not making money, or they're under earning, they're not sure of what what they want. They don't have any goals. They don't have any dreams. And so I help the business owner, first off, actually, even how did you even get in? Why did you get into business? Most business owners that I find, which leads back to why I even do the coaching now, they bring their personal beliefs that they had into their business, and they don't even realize it, right? So again, if they self-sabotage their personal life, they're going to do the same thing in their business.
Okay. And this is mainly like solopreneurs or small businesses that you're talking about?
I mostly work with solopreneurs. So I'll give you, for instance, one of my clients, she wanted to start her own business, a massage therapist.
Okay.
And she started out of her home and made a separate entrance and everything, but she wasn't confident in her value of who she was and what she offered. And she felt like she had to kind of give away her services so that people would like her. And so she undercharged. She was treating her business more like a hobby than she was a business. So her bank accounts were not separate. She combined them. She didn't know her numbers. So, once I came in there and we looked at all this and separated the two, then she would actually change it more into, okay, if I don't take care of my personal life, I can't do my business life. And so I'd help them separate that.
Okay, and it is a fine line between your personal life and your business life, because it is a different hat that you're wearing, and you have to have a different, let's say, even a core belief. I mean, if you don't have any self-confidence, or you have low self-confidence, then how are you going to go out there and make the sales, and how are you going to feel comfortable with charging somebody the going rate for your services?
Yeah, and for a lot of them, it's when they want to start their business. See, we weren't taught about money. I don't know about you, but my parents never taught me about money. They were the Joneses, they live up with the Joneses and spend. And guess that was myself too. I became a spender of not knowing and always trying to find connections. And until I did some of this work, I know what people are going through, right? You're just blindly going from whatever beliefs that you have around money. And so for businesses, if for them to actually be successful in their business, they have to be successful in their personal life first, or it will ripple into their business.
Okay, and I do see that, but one of the first businesses I did was back in the 1990s, 1999 actually, and it was with network marketing through a company that no longer exists. It was through a company called Equinox International, and we would have offices. We would have a place that would do our basically daily or twice a day presentation, and then we had a room full of just desks, and it was you had to keep it different. I mean, you cannot bring your personal life issues into the office.
Yeah.
But most people do. I mean, they don't know how to separate the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's okay, because I mean, it's like I always say to everybody, it's not your fault. It's just the way that you've been brought up. And until you know better, when you know better, you'll do better, type of thing.
And so you help them realize what kind of a personality that they have, with money personally, and then you help them on their business side.
Yeah, I kind of do a deep dive, I would say. Some people say, every time I come into your office, you're going to make me cry. I'm like, well, it's just like when we dig down deep into what is really important to us, then we can get emotional about that. And especially if there's blocks. And I saw so many people, it broke my heart that they were suffering and they didn't know what they wanted. And I was like that too, right? I mean, I was 39 years old. I had debt up to past my head. I was a single mother with 2 kids, and I got married at 18. So I was always bouncing from husband to husband and never learned about money. I never had handled money myself. And a mentor came into my life that actually, she was single mom, and she owned her own home, and she had a nice car and nice clothes and traveled. And I'm like, how do you have that? Like, I want that. And she says, oh, come on, I'll show you. So she mentored me, introduced me to Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and self-help in general. And my life changed dramatically. And in my business, I got promoted to management, and then everything changed for me. And I started doing self-help with my advisors. But when I started Molchan Financial in 2005 as my own, I immediately started a group for women, because I knew it was a missing piece for women, because financial planning wasn't teaching you about money and life. So it's called the Diva Club. And it was all about educating women around finances, different topics. And then we would do fun stuff. So my friend here owns a pub, and so we would have financial information and education, and then we went to beer tasting, wine tasting, pole dancing, makeup, hors d'oeuvre making. It was so much fun. And we'd paddle over to a little island on the dragon boats and have a celebration at the end of the year. So it was really rewarding to me. And being able to help women, especially around money, has just been a passion for me.
So do you feel that women have different issues with money than men do, or is it that you're more passionate about helping women in general?
I think women tend to ask for help more than the men do. For me, when I work with men, it's more in a couple situation. That's just the way that it's gone for me. I really connect with the women and they connect with me. And I guess because of my story and my own struggle with money and, starting my own business, I really can relate. And I attract a lot of baby boomers, which I am. So, and, yourself. So we're just, we're a different breed so to speak. We have come from different background that it helps me understand them better from where they're coming from.
Okay, because I know because you're in Canada and
Yes.
Canada. I mean, you're very. We have very similar cultures. I know in America, traditionally, especially say people in the baby boomers age groups, it was traditionally the man that goes out and earns the living by bringing in the income, and the woman usually was the one, let's say, the stay-at-home mom, the housewife. So they were not traditionally in the same, balancing their checkbooks and things like that. Back when I used to be a college math teacher, I would teach. There was times I was teaching classes that were so basic. I mean, so basic that most teachers could not teach it. It was too basic.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, let's just say on the first day of class, I was showing people how to read a number and where a comma goes in a number.
Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
Basic.
Yeah.
It took us a week before we started adding two numbers together and you line up by the decimal point. I mean, without using a calculator. So the reason I bring that up is when I taught that class, it was 90% female in the class. Mm-hmm. And most of the women in the class were in their 40s or older.
Yeah. My grandmother, when my grandfather died, she didn't know how to even write a check. She had no idea what to do with money. My dad actually had to go in and help her financially because she didn't know a thing. It's like that was your place in the house. And I think we grow up in different things. In my house, for sure, like I walked into the room and they were talking about money. They would stop. Or if you would just say, how much money do you make? It's like, it's none of your business. And it was just this big taboo subject that you didn't talk about, right? So mm-hmm. On the outside, it looked like everything was fine and happy. It was kind of upper middle class that I grew up in, but there was lots of debt in there and they were spending, but they got bailed out from inheritances. So nowadays, there's no inheritance, for a lot of people, right? There's no big pensions and the boomers are spending their money or they don't have any money to leave. So it's that whole thing about planning now where it's that's what I'm talking about. The traditional financial planning model doesn't work anymore, right? It doesn't do the inner game of what's going on because we're all smart. We all know that, spend less than you earn and save and invest and you'll be financially successful. Well, if that worked, there wouldn't be the problems that we have, right? And it's easy to do. So it's the mindset and what we're taught. And that's where I see in my practice of the missing piece of financial planning, right? And that I'm so passionate about. I've done workshops and I had one woman in a workshop that had we come to a goal setting exercise. And so I let them go and do their work on their goals. And I came by and she was sitting in the corner and she was just crying, just sobbing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And she says, I don't even know what to write. I can't even write a goal. Like she had no idea what she wanted. She was a single mom. She'd been newly divorced. And my heart broke for her because I'd been in her shoes when at 39, when I had my metamorphosis, I was the same way. So I think, especially with women now in this marketplace, that they're starting to get out and their hobbies are becoming businesses. One, because they have to, or they either get divorced or they've lost their job and now they've got to go out on their own. And they're like, well, I should make this hobby, or I can just make money at this. And that comes with a whole lot of other problems that they don't even know. And usually, well, a lot of the times, some of the clients I've worked with, the husband is supportive at first, but then if the money's not rolling in, then they're like, well, where's the money? Where's the money? How come you haven't made any money? Right. So they can sabotage themselves that way too around money. So it's there's all different scenarios that it all comes into play.
Okay. And I can understand that from a, let's say, a husband-wife dynamic where, you know, the wife's spending all this time, or even if the reverse was true, if the woman is let's say she's an attorney and the guy, this is why I want to start my own business, and he's not bringing in the funds. Like, well, you spent the last 6 months doing all of this work for no profit. So I could see where it could start being daunting on the spouse, in this case, the husband.
For sure. And so that's where I love to come in and coach that business, whether, you know, in my case, it's been mostly women, into what do they, you know, because they really don't have any goals. They don't know their numbers. They're still treating their money like a hobby, or their business, sorry, like a hobby. And, because they're in the mindset of replacing income. But what I want them to see is that bigger reason, and that what is that bigger goal than why you're doing this? Because we can work money to work money, right? But if you don't have emotionally tied to it, right? So I always say, you know, connect your heart to your head, and so that you can get better results. And I love watching the shift in people when they do tap into that. Oh, well, why am I doing this? This isn't even important to me, right? I should be doing this. Yes, let's go.
Actually, I have a course, and doing the goal setting is part of it. And I even came up with my own acronym. You're welcome to use it if you want to. I call it, you've heard of SMART goals. I'm assuming. Okay, well, I actually put a twist on it and said, what is a SMART goal? And I add a sixth component. For those of you out there that don't know what a SMART goal is, I'm going to go over it really briefly. The SMART, or SMART E, is an acronym. The S stands for your goal has to be specific. You can't, like, for example, the lady that was crying, well, I don't know what to write down. And you can say, I want to make more money. Well, more does not exist. You can't get behind more. I want to lose weight. Well, what does that mean? Yeah. Because when somebody say, hey, I want more money, I usually reach into my pocket, pull out a penny or a dime, give it to this. Congratulations, you made your goal. You made more money.
Yeah.
So it has to be specific. So, and it also has to be, the M stands for measurable. And so you have to be able to measure it. You have to be able to say, I weigh, let's say, 195 pounds. I want to get down to 180. Or what do you weigh right now? Well, 193. Okay, what next week? What do you weigh? You have to be able to measure it over a course of time. The A stands for, it has to be attainable. And now, when I always preface the A, or the attainable part, I don't say don't set risky goals. Yet it still has to be attainable. Yeah. And the R stands for, and I've heard it two different ways. I first learned that R has to be risky. You have to be able to do something different. You have to be able to take a risk, be able to do something that's out of your comfort zone. The other ways that R has been represented is has to be relevant. It has to be relevant to what you're going on. It says, hey, I want to say I weigh 180 pounds, and what is, and then you say that's my financial goal. Like, no, these are not. They're not related to each other. The T stands for timely. You have to have a deadline. Yeah. You may say, I want to, let's pretend today is January 1st, and I want to make $10,000 in my business by February 28th. Okay, so you got a 2-month timeline there. You cannot leave it open. Now, the last component, the letter Y, stands for what you had just said is your why. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a strong enough why, money wise, whatever, then you're never going to go after that goal, because it's not going to be what gets you up in the morning. So you're more than welcome to use that acronym with your clients. And the reason that I'm going to go over one huge goal for me, because I always get stuck on the word attainable. Back in May 2010, I weighed 240 pounds. I had a high school reunion coming up in 60 days. But I set a 90-day goal because I started doing a program called P90X. I was going to go to my high school reunion right around the 60th day, and I was meeting an ex-girlfriend that I hadn't seen in a few years, and I was going to take her to my high school reunion. Now, I lived in Vegas. She lived in Philadelphia. So this is going to be a plane ride, and we were meeting in my hometown of Pensacola, Florida. My goal was to lose 70 pounds in 90 days. Is it specific?
Wow.
Yes. Is it measurable? Yes. Is it attainable? And every time I give this at a seminar, people say, yes, it's attainable. I go, okay, let me ask you again. 70 pounds naturally in 90 days is about 1 pound or 3/4 of a pound to 1 pound per day consistently for 3 months. Is that attainable? I don't know. I mean, without having some kind of surgery, maybe not.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that seemed like a lofty goal. I did lose 60 pounds in 90 days. I did lose 70. But that was an attainable goal. Now, another thing was, you may say like, hey, today's January 1st, 2018. I want to be walking on the moon by next week.
Right.
If it's all of these other things and you have a strong why to do it, unless you're Elon Musk or something like that, it's not going to happen.
Richard Branson.
Yeah, Richard Branson or something. Because it's just not attainable because of where you are today. So anyway, whenever you're talking to your clients, now you're going through the Smarty formula, or you're doing something similar to it.
Yeah, similar, but for instance, one of the questions is like, if I got this from Brian Tracy, wave your magic wand and you had $1 million. What's the first thing that you do? And always, especially when they first come to see me, the number one answer is get out of debt. And I was like, no, well, that's great, but that's not the goal. And they go, what do you mean that's goal? No, my goal is to get out of debt. And I said, no, it's not. I said, the goal is what's going to happen once you're out of debt. I said, the getting out of debt is an action step, right? So then they go, what? And I said, what is it that when you're out of debt, what will you do? And I keep asking them to go further and further. So if they say, well, I'll travel, and I was like, travel where? Why? And then always why. So I ask them to be very specific on exactly what they want. So that's the specific and a time frame too, right? Because what I do is set maximum really 2-year goals, and then we break them down into 90-day chunks, right? Okay. Because then it makes it realistic for them to go, okay, 90 days. So if their goal is just for math wise, like $120,000 a year to make in their business, okay, now you got to do 10,000 a month, right? And so now you're down to 30,000. So the 120 doesn't look like this big daunting factor. But always it's like, okay, you're making money to make money. That's just, again, an action step for what is it that you want. And I think that's where a lot of businesses, when it comes to money, is their missing piece, is they don't have that. What is that bigger dream that I'm working for? Why did I start this business? Is it for freedom? Is it for, what do I want to do? Do I want to travel? Do I want to get more people? Do I want to build an empire? What is it that I want to do here with my business? And then always grounding it with a why. So yes, I've taken Simon Sinek's course on the power of why. He just came out with a revised edition just lately, so I redid it again, and it's very powerful because whenever you're making decisions now, you're always grounded from a deeper place of, well, this is why I'm doing this, not the little things. I got to get an accountant. I got to do this. And, those are like little basic things. Well, why am I doing this? Or why am I working my arse off to do this? Well, because this is why. And that helps you get out of bed in the morning too, right? Because some days you might think, oh God, what am I doing? But if you focus on that why, makes it a lot easier for me anyway, and my clients.
Well, because it gives you your purpose. I mean, it's the reason that you're doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so like business, like people say for your business, like follow your passion, do your passion and all that. Well, I love what I do, like my coaching and thing, but my passion is actually traveling and golfing. I'm very much an avid golfer. So people say, why aren't you passionate? Shouldn't you be passionate about your business? And I'm like, I am. I love my business, but my passion is my goals, right? Which is to, be over here. That's my purpose, right? Of why I do what I do, making a difference to people in their lives and helping them get out of their own way with money, because it's such a big block for most people, is huge for me, because I've been there. I've gone through and broken through those walls. So I get it, where people are at. And I think I'm really good at it. Getting in there and seeing, being able to dig down and below the surface of people, of what it is that they're truly is going on with them, right? That whole psychology of the inner game and the beliefs and the stories and everything else that's going on.
Yeah. Oh, and it's true, because we all have our own belief systems based upon how we grew up and, what influences that we were around, how we deal with money. And unfortunately, and I would assume in Canada, the same as America, a lot of people grew up on, even in the upper middle class, of some kind of scarcity. There's some kind of scarcity. Oh, we can't afford that for Christmas, or we can't do that. And that gets ingrained into the children. And I'm talking about kids that are 1 year old, 2 years old, 5, 6, 8 years old. I mean, they have nothing else to compare it to. They don't really even have a choice to know that there's a difference.
Exactly. I'm working with a couple right now, and she has a very successful, she does ultrasounds for pets. And so she has a mobile ultrasound, and so she can get called all over the place. She makes over $100,000 a year, but she's got nothing to show for it. She has a crappy relationship with money. She's hasn't done her taxes for 7 years. Hence why why she's called me, because she's at wit's end, right? Well, she went to see a counselor who's a friend of mine, who said, maybe we should go talk to Shari on the whole money thing, right? And so what we've uncovered by going deep, right, into what her money story is that her mom never had any money. Like her dad would, if she went to the grocery store, her dad would he would come and pay for the groceries. Like she was never given any money. She never had any money. And so, her mom never had her dreams, nothing. And so her family, her brother and sister, have lived in kind of a have-not attitude, where she has been successful and she's got a husband and a great kid, but she's sabotaging her money because she's got this inner belief that if she has, then she's bad. Right. And like for her brother and sister, like she's a have-not, like she'll lose them, right? She'll lose the connection with them because it's have-not. She has to be have-not. And it's so cool to see people realize that, oh my God, like I can see now why it was her husband. Just to give you another story, his money story, he had put his head in the sand along with her, because his idea of being successful in his business, he was a bartender when he was 18, and he had this attitude, and his dad's like, as long as you got money in your pocket, you're doing okay, right? It's like, make sure you've always got money in your pocket. And so we uncovered through this work that I do that it was like, he still, because he says to me, a couple days ago, it was just like, I've got money, as long as I got money in my wallet, I'm good. Or I always make sure I have $200 cash. And I was like, well, so that 18-year-old you're packing around, he's got this false sense of security, but as long as he's got money in his wallet, he feels secure. And it's not true, right? He was like, oh my God, it's just like slap, but it's great because now you can go back and change that story. And so it's like, you just gotta scratch that kind of record that keeps playing whenever that comes up, and you just put it in there with what you want, which comes back to why it's so important to know what you want. When I first started my business, one of the things that I would say to my clients, and this was off the chart for a financial advisor to do this, was I would have their dreams, and I would ask, and I had 10 spots on there, and I says, what are your dreams? And I want you to write out 10 of them. Most people had a hard time writing 10. And that was off the wall for them to do that. And I remember this one couple that I did, and they wrote down their dreams, and they were actually totally different. They did get divorced. But it's again, it's just, we have to have that, what's important to us.
Yes. And I agree, and I fully agree with that as well. And thank you for sharing all of those different stories, because if you and your husband or you and your wife don't have the same kind of financial, let's just say, education, then that could very easily, I mean, if you got the husband that's the saver and the wife that's the spender, that's not going to work, or vice versa, or what have you. So that's good that you get to understand who they are, and you dig deep into what their
I can give you even a good story about the spender saver is myself, right? My husband, he's my third husband. I'm a spender and he's a saver. He grew up in a family where his dad stole his paper money. He left the family, was a gambler. There was 5 kids, and I mean, literally they ate potatoes some nights just for dinner, right? So they always struggle. And his dad was a risk taker and an entrepreneur, and always going out there and starting new businesses and everything else. And so for me, when I left the security of the company and started my own business as an entrepreneur in the same industry that I'm doing, he was like, "Are you kidding me? Or like, what are you doing?" Right? And I'm like, no, it's good. But he sabotaged me constantly, because it was his own fears of his dad, because he's got this saver mentality, and it almost split up our relationship. So like when people say that couples argue about, you start your own business and the other partner doesn't understand, it's super important to have those conversations. And that's where the money personality and knowing what those are is key. It saved my marriage, because I was able to understand where he was coming from. He was worried that I would lose everything like his dad, right? And just take him to the cleaners and risk everything, which wasn't true, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And are there many money personality types, or?
Mm-hmm. There's 4 main ones: spenders, savers. There's givers, people who they're like a martyr kind of a thing. They give away all their money, like the mother who doesn't spend any money on themselves, or spends, or even couples, gives their kids, buys them cars, down payments, and then when it comes to their nest egg, there's nothing there. They're always giving for not putting themselves first. And then there's like the entrepreneur kind of builder personality, who is the risk taker. We're all a little bit of everything,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have a dominant one that comes up, and they can change. We can change them. It's not like it's set in stone, but it's our go-to, right? It's from how we were brought up. And so it's really important to know what that is, so that because not all our money messages and all our money stories are bad. There's some that are good, but you need to go in there and just clean out the ones that aren't working for you, and add some better ones that are in, again, that are predicated on what it is you want.
Okay. And because that just made me think, in the personal growth industry, there's no such thing as good and bad, is what they preach. Is it effective or ineffective for you?
Right.
So what could be good for me may be bad for you.
Yeah, exactly. But they're programmed to believe good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially if you're not good with money, I just did a video on this, starting a new video vlog that's coming out next week. And I talked about this, where a lot of people, if they're not keeping up with their money, then they're worthless. Like, you're a loser, and you're bad somehow. that you don't know what to do, right? And this is why people stick their head in the sand, because they're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And then there's shame and there's guilt, or I should know better. You know, and the older we get, the more shame there is, because we should know by now. Because, I mean, you have to live under a rock to not be able to just go to any store, anything, YouTube, to get advice on how to invest or budgeting or anything like that. So it's not that the information isn't there. It's just because we can't absorb it, because we don't have the mindset to do that, right? So we end up saying, oh, we're bad and everything else, which is not true, right? So it's what I always say to people, it's not your fault the way you are, right? It's just your mindset. And when you can go in and look and see what's working for you and what's not, your life will change. It'll change forever, because you can't unlearn something, right? Once you know it.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things out there. There's things that once you see it, you can't isolate. You just cannot unsee it.
Yeah, lots you don't want to.
And it is so funny. Some of it's so, because there's a couple of videos that are out on YouTube, and they're comedian video or comic videos, and there's one that I saw. I'm not going to say what it is or who it is, but there's one that I saw that was right around about the holidays, about Christmas actually. And once you watch that video, it's like, oh my gosh, I catch myself about to do the thing that he was making fun of. It's like, no, I can't do this. I have to do this. I have to do something else now.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, let me ask you a little bit about yourself then, about your early successes, because you say you started your Motion Financial in 2005. That's going to be 12, 13 years that you've been in business.
Yeah.
What were some of your early successes, or when you were getting started, how did you know to switch from corporate America to?
Well, I didn't know until the kind of the Pac-Man of companies buying companies bought our company, and the company I worked with was awesome, was a major company, and it got bought out by another one who were all about corporate. All the upper management, all those mentors in my life left, and I was a president of our local association of insurance financial advisors here. And he was my vice president. He came up to me and says, hey, I hear you're not that happy there and everything since everything happened. Would you be interested in looking at starting your own business, right? Being a broker, because I was in kind of an agency system, and I'm like, I don't know, right? And so one of the best decisions that I ever did, even though at the time I was really choked, like at the company, starting that new business, was have a mentor. I don't think I'd be where I am. Well, I know I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't. I actually went into his office and built a little office inside his office. So again, more money going out. But my husband was like, what are you doing? And, but he was there keeping me accountable every day. You know, how many people are you calling? What are you doing? What are your goals? Where are you going? And in that first year, I made $75,000. I was making six figures in management, and then I went to $75,000 in the first year, and then over $100,000 in the second year. And I know my success was because I had my feet to the fire, and had goals and was accountable for them. So that part in those first 2 years was key to my success, total key of having. And which I recommend to anybody. If you're gonna start your own business and you've never done this before, then either pay for coaching or have somebody mentor you. I didn't pay. Well, I did pay for him because he was taking a portion of my commissions, which I found out later was more than I thought it was. But in retrospect, I'm not mad about it, because I was coached, right? And as a coach, I get it, right? So I don't regret it. I get it now. And it's one thing that I tell every person that's going into business, right? Get a mentor, get a coach. Don't try and do this by yourself. It's too hard.
And when you say mentor, because I want to make sure the audience distinguishes between a mentor and a coach. A coach is usually somebody you go out there and hire. They may or may not have expertise in your arena, but they have general expert. And let's say a money coach, you have
Right.
that, but you may not know anything about giving massage. or
Right.
marketing massage company.
Right.
So that's what basically a coach is. A mentor is somebody that's already done it, has success in it, and is somebody that you look up to. And it can be somebody that you work with directly, or it could even be somebody that you listening to Tony Robbins motivational TED Talks or things like that. So mentors could also be that, but you're going along the lines of more of a physical mentor that knew that you were shadowing, that you were actually in presence with that person.
Yeah, for sure. And I've had both. I've had, the mentor of Tony Robbins and stuff too. But yes, in my case, it was a mentor that was in my industry and that I was actually working beside me. And now in later years, I've had different mentors too, not in the same industry, but women and men that I've looked up to that in my business that I've gone for advice, or I've taken their courses or gotten coaching too. So it's continued on through, I think my success is because I have not tried to do it by myself. I have always asked for help, which is hard for a lot of people to do. It's to ask for help, because again, it comes down to that. It's like even people hiring me, they're like embarrassed and I should know. And oh,
Well, and I'm going to ask you a question because I already know the answer. I know how you're going to respond, because you're going to respond just like 99% of the country or world responds. If somebody were to ask you for help, would you help them?
yes,
If it was in your availability to do so?
yes.
Absolutely. So the general rule of thumb is most people are willing to help other people, but they're afraid to ask for help from somebody else.
Oh, and I tell my clients, like if they're coming into a business and like this one couple I'm working with, he's been working in an industry. He designs gorgeous speakers like that can look like furniture and stuff. And he wants to start his own business, and he's got some friends that are, and I said, phone them. They'll talk to you. They'll phone, I said, phone these guys, ask them what they're doing, like successful, like talk to these people. And he's like, well, they're not going to, I said, yes, they will. I get calls from people all the time saying, what did you do? Can I pick your brain, or can I talk to you? And I'm always, 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 yes, 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 yes. And it's not, especially in some jobs, like we figure we got to hold our cards. I can't tell you what I'm doing because then you're going to go out there and do it too. And you're going to steal my clients. It's just so much garbage. And especially because I'm in a smaller town, there's only 100,000 or so in just this area. I mean, it's really prevalent where people are like that. And I'm like, there's 100,000 people in your lifetime. You will never, ever, not have contact. So, it's just getting past that, asking for help for sure. Big time. Huge.
And I know for me, just recently, because I just restarted this season 2 of this podcast, and a lot of the people that are, my original people that were on the podcast were people that I knew, and to me, it was even difficult to me as I was making my original list, which is right there, as I was making my original list of who I wanted to be on the shows. Like I was now, I don't want to say terrified, but I was like, I felt like it was a huge deal just to ask somebody to be, give me 60 minutes of their time, on the show. And then meeting people like yourself, which I did not know before, more than say 2-3 weeks ago, is when we actually met. We met on LinkedIn or Facebook, and I was just reaching out. And were you recommended, or did you see like one of my posts? Because I was put out a post, I think, for female entrepreneurs. Is what?
Yeah, no, it was. I was referred to you by Citrus Pie Marketing in Vancouver.
Okay.
What's her name?
Was it Jenny? Or
Yeah.
So you got referred.
Yeah, I got referred to you, or you got. I got me. I was referred to you by her.
Yeah, she. I think she made a post on the. She replied to one of the posts that I had, and she mentioned I tagged you in it, and that's when I reached out to you through messaging. So, but then again, this was me asking you for help.
Yeah.
So just to help me on my show and then help you with, maybe do some promotions and stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
So yes, I think once you start asking people for help, then you realize just how much is out there, how much abundance is out there, and then it becomes so much easier. But just, I would say if you have a hard time asking for help, ask a good friend for help you to move a piece of furniture. Do something just so you get in the habit of asking, and
Yeah.
then you can start going after those bigger things.
Yeah. And especially in business, like business owners, there's such this stigmatism of asking for help, that I'll sign a weakness, and it's not. It's like it's so it isn't sign of weakness. And I always say, any client that walks through my door or phones me or wants to have a conversation with me, I said, you know what, the hardest thing that you've just done, that's the hardest thing that nobody thinks, is called me.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, that's it. The rest is easier from here. And they go, really? And I'm like, yeah. How long did it take you? How long have you been thinking about this? How long have you been, is all this stuff been building up with you? And you do it. And I was like, oh, I know. It's just sort of like, enough is enough. And I picked up the phone, and it's like, oh, I've even had clients sit in front of me. It's like, I feel like I come out of the closet, because they're finally getting this off their chest that's just drowning them with pain or frustration or whatever, or lack of money or whatever it is. So anybody that's listening or watching, like, if you have been thinking about this, then do it, right? Just do it. I mean, your life will change.
Right.
So.
And I fully agree. I mean, I do a lot of stuff in the personal growth industry. I volunteer staff and giving my time back. And one of these classes that I do that with is for 3 days long. And once the class begins, the facilitator or the instructor in front of the room, it says, you're halfway to where you want to be because you showed up.
Yeah.
Half the thing is just showing up or making the phone call.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's a huge thing that I tell my businesses or business people for coaching is, who's successful in your industry right now? Who's making the money that you want to make? Who's doing the things? What clients do they have? Are they, well, they're in a different country. So what? It's people are people. Business is business. It doesn't matter where you're doing business. So.
And then you copy them as well. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not, copy. We all do the same things, pretty much the same thing with our own flair and our own personality. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to call him a mentor, but the owner of the company called ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, I believe is his name. And he talks about when you're looking at other businesses, you want to go and do your own R&D. Yeah. Which is rip off and duplicate.
Yeah.
I love the way he says it.
But that's true. You even look at Tony Robbins, right? He's like, do what I'm doing. Like, just here, this is, and a lot of these guys are, Dean Graziosi, I'm sure you've heard of him, with the Millionaire Habits book that he's just had out. He's like, I'm just giving you, here's everything that I do today. Copy it. Just copy what I'm doing every day, right? So they're telling the success, the top 1% up there, they're going, copy us. Come on.
Absolutely. And okay, let me ask you, when you were getting started, did you have any big fears that was holding you back? And if you did, what did you do to get past those? Yeah,
the one was the starting from zero, going from 6 figures and starting at zero was like, what was I thinking? I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I had a passion for this business, and it's morphed into the coaching, from being financial advisor. But I think the how I got rid of that fear was I took all that self-development programming that I had done earlier and used that, and having the mentor helped a lot, and having some really clear goals of, why was I doing this? Why am I doing this? And a big why, right? And I knew that I wanted to make a difference for women. That was my drive. That was why I started my own company, to be able to go deep into the conversation around money.
So when you were working with that gentleman as your mentor, was that when were you still working as an employee, or is that when you actually started? Coaching?
Yeah. So that was right when I first started. So I was lucky in that he came along and was there for me right from the very, very beginning. But I learned some other mistakes after that. That was fine. I had that, but then I left him after 2 years and went on my own. And so that was nice. The money's rolling in, and, you know, I have a bookkeeper and accountant. I'm keeping up with my taxes and such, but I wasn't really knowing my numbers. And so I was kind of giving the envelope to the bookkeeper and saying, here you go. And I'd get a statement and I would look, but the cash flow was always really good. So I wasn't really paying attention. So I hired an assistant, and she was a bookkeeper too in her past job. So I thought, well, I don't need to pay two. So I started getting her to do my numbers for my business. And that was a huge eye opener, because I was spending anywhere from $400 to $600 a month on dining out. So whether it was taking clients out, or, you know, like just lunches or that, it shocked me. And so one of the other biggest number one things that I would give to entrepreneurs is you have to know your numbers. Most do not know their numbers, not in their personal life. And what I mean by know your numbers, like I can say to somebody, oh, do you know your numbers? And they go, yeah, I know how much money I have in my account and, you know, how much I spend. And I said, do you know how much you spend in each category? So how much you spend on groceries? How much are you spending on health and beauty? How much are you spending on dining out? How much are you spending on entertainment? Like all of those things. And they'll go, well, no, not really. And the same in your business. So on the business side, I did not realize the amount of money I was spending on dining out, like for clients, like business wise. And like I said, I like to travel and golf. So, I mean, that was a lot of money every month that was going, where I was like, wait a minute. No, I would rather be out in the golf course or traveling than eating out. Right. So I changed my habits on that. But it was an awareness of knowing the numbers, and then you can do something. Because people come to me and they'll say, oh, Shari, can you give me advice on this or that? And I'm like, well, what are your numbers? And I'd say 8 times out of 10, they can't tell me.
No. And I can fully understand that as well. Just because I deal with a lot of different business people, and even as a real estate agent, and you know, dealing with things like that, which has variable income. You know, most realtors that I know, they don't know their numbers either until the end of the year when they get their 1099 from their brokers. So
yeah. So that was a huge success for me. Was another learning curve, was knowing my numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go down that road just a little bit, because we are about to run out of time here. Okay. What would you say were some of your biggest setbacks or challenges that you had while doing your business?
Yeah. I would say that was one, not knowing my numbers. The next one that I did was I decided to get into the workshop arena, and I tried to do it all myself. And that didn't work. You know, so hiring people, even if you're doing a virtual assistant, that was the word I'm looking for, that's something like for businesses, quit trying to do it by yourself. If you're making $100 an hour or more, and you're doing the $20 an hour or $10 an hour job, then you need to look at that, right? But it's that one of the things, I used to do my own newsletters, and I finally let that go. And that was like, oh, but they're not going to do it as good as me. And so but they did it just fine. But if I'm making $200 an hour and I'm doing a $20 an hour job. So that was a huge change that I made in my business, was that. And what was the question again? You answered
challenges or setbacks.
Challenges. Yeah. And the other challenge was when I did change to go to being just more of the coaching, and gave up my mutual fund license to do the financial advisor side. My income also went for temporarily. And then not having those discussions with my husband about what I was doing kind of clashed. So talk to your partner. You know, when you're having if you're in business, talk to your partner of what's going on. Don't make big financial decisions on your own, because, you know, so have some kind of an agreement, even about that. Like if you're going into debt, especially, to do something, because I see people will buy like a brand new vehicle for their business, and the partner's like, what are you doing? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just keep the communication going with your partner if that's appropriate in your thing. So those were huge lessons for me.
And I think that is also, yes, very important. Like when you said, hey, I'm going to leave the financial institution and start Molchan Financials, and then you went from a six-figure income to a zero income. Granted, you said you made 75,000 in your first year, so you went from six figures to a high five,
Yeah.
a mid to high five.
Yeah.
That's still let's say you were making exactly 100,000. That's still a 25% reduction.
Yeah. No,
Income.
like I said, I get what success looks like, because there have been years where I haven't had that, where I'm not making, maybe I'm only making 60,000. And I can always look back and say, well, what did I do? Oh, I didn't have accountability. I didn't have a coach. I wasn't doing it. I was being lazy. I was all of those things. So I can look back at that and go, okay,
Got it.
you do what you want to do.
Okay. And then what do you see yourself in the next 12 to 24 months?
My goal, my husband is 7 years older than me, and we're trying to semi-retire. I do the coaching because I do, like the Zoom calls. I was just down in Mexico at the beginning of December, and I was actually went up to the hotel and coached for 2 hours and then went back to the beach. And so I want to build a practice where I'm actually traveling minimum 6 months of the year, and still doing my coaching clients is from wherever I am, and also heading retreats and taking clients on exotic places and getting out of that whole money mindset that they can have luxury or travel if that's important to them, right?
Well, and I think anybody that's running a business, they do need to get themselves a taste of luxury every once in a while, because it gives them a remembrance of maybe part of the why they're doing it.
Yeah.
As an example, here in Las Vegas, I have a friend of mine that her and her husband come and visit about once a year, usually in December. And sometimes it's in February, but usually it's December. And they are co-owners of a penthouse at one of the casinos that overlooks the strip. It's not on the strip, but it overlooks the strip.
Yeah.
And one of the things when she's in town, because he goes to bed usually pretty early, so we're just up and we're out there on the patio in the hot tub with an acrylic wall. You see the entire strip in front of you. And I just sitting there, and she's drinking her champagne. I'm having a cocktail or something like that. It's like this. This is a penthouse. This is a multi-million-dollar penthouse, and just enjoying that one night. It happens once a year. Or another thing I treated myself to, and remember, this is all free for me.
Yeah.
Is I say, you know what is my dream car? What is the car that I think is my dream car? Okay, let me say it's a Tesla. Okay, well, why don't you go test drive the Tesla?
Yeah.
Go test drive that Lamborghini. Go test drive, whatever your dream car is, and give yourself a reminder of that. And I would even say, if you want to take it one step further, is when you are doing that test drive, get a picture of yourself standing next to the car and tag yourself there.
My very first car that I bought, I wanted a Mercedes SLK, and I started golfing, so it was too small. So I went and I had a picture of this Mercedes with my picture in it on my dream board. And because I started golfing, and 2 years later, I ended up with a silver Mustang convertible that could fit my golf clubs in, but it came true. So I'm very much a dream board kind of, and I tell my clients that too. When you say want a car, I'm like, go out and test drive it too. So I do the same thing. Okay. You got to taste it and do it and go out and, just want real quick, the whole thing with the being in debt and having a life, right? Especially in business. People say, well, I can't, I'm too busy. And I said, you've got to put some fun time in there, mm-hmm. or you will burn out and sabotage. So I'm all about have some fun and don't worry, make time. You've got to put you in that schedule. Number one of my big values is fun. And I tell my clients the same thing. You got to have fun in your business. If it's not fun, then why are you doing it, right?
Well, because there's the end result. If you were to get that to that point of financial freedom, or how are you going to enjoy it? You're still going to be still that workaholic. I mean, yes, you do have to take that time off and go out and what do they call it? Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Is what they call it.
Exactly.
So, well, as we're now going to be wrapping up here, is there any last little tidbits of information or advice that you would give the budding entrepreneur that you haven't already said, or maybe you would to just repeat what you said?
I think just, with your business, separate it from your personal life as an entrepreneur, have them both separate, have your goals and dreams of why you're doing what you're doing, that they match what's doing it, and just have a bigger reason than just money around why you do what you do. And that'll change your life, right? When you're not just working to work, you're working because I'm doing this because I want.
Well, one of the books I often quote in my show is a book by Timothy Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek.
Yeah, I love that.
And I talk about other things, but because we're kind of talking about this is I want to talk more about the acronym DEAL, and in particular the L, and which stands for liberate. It says most people do not want. They may say that they want $1 million. They may want to be a millionaire, and what Timothy says is that's complete BS.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a millionaire. You want the lifestyle that a millionaire has.
Exactly.
And you can do it on less than $1 million.
Yeah. Well, I know. I had a client here that they had like debt, like the list was a laundry list of debt. And the woman, she was stressed out from her job and she wanted to quit. And she's like, oh, we'll never do it. And I'm like, look, you can do it. 6 months later, they went to Maui. I mean, it saved their lives really, because they were so depressed and everything was going on. I'm like, you can do this. So yeah, what you think you can't do, you can.
One of my sayings, or one of the quotes from Zig Ziglar that I always say, if you can dream it, you can achieve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Shari, if somebody out here in the audience that's listening to this show wants to get a hold of you, or wants to possibly hire you as a coach, find out more about financial services, more about their business or their personal money relationships, how can they get a hold of you? Do you have a website that they can go to?
Yeah, the website's the best thing. All the information's on there and links to my Facebook page. So it's Molchan, MOLCHAN, that's my financial one. Go to Shari Molchan, SHARIMOLCHAN.com.
So ShariMolchan.com.
ShariMolchan.com. That's the place for me to go. Yeah.
Okay. So they can contact you either through phone or message or something like that on there.
Yeah, they can phone, and there's a contact page there. They can send me an email or give me a call. There's an 800 number there. So either way.
Okay, well, fantastic. Well, Shari, it was a great pleasure having you on the show today, and I learned a lot about what you do, and I learned some stuff. I'm sure the audience has also learned some great stuff. For those of you that are either watching the show on iTunes or YouTube or on my Kevin A. Dunlap page, please go ahead and leave a comment if you liked it or didn't like it. If you had questions or anything like that, I would love to hear what you have to say. And Shari, again, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. I was so happy to be here. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. in person, virtually.
I know. I love that though. It's like we're sitting across from each other. So I love it.
Yeah. I do too. I think this is becoming one of my more preferred ways of communicating.
I love it. I'm
this.
building my business around it.
I am too. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit kevinadunlap.com, facebook.com/kevinadunlap.author, and on Twitter @KevinADunlap. We'll catch you on the next episode of Life's Little Lessons.